Word. Go. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to the What's Up Wednesday 2025 State of the Child webinar. My name is Beth Yates and I'm the Children's Consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be your host and question moderator. Today, our presenters are Bree Yoon and Olga Volokova, who are both data and evaluation managers at the Indiana Youth Institute. A couple of announcements for you before we start. First of all, to register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and then it's under Services for Libraries. This session is 1 hour, so you're eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your LEU are in the video's description on YouTube, or you can find those instructions on the ISL's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, someone in administration at your library should create a certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Again, our presenters today are Bree Yoon and Olga Volokova of the Indiana Youth Institute. So please take it away, Bree and Olga.
Well, hello, good morning. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining our 9th annual State of the Child webinar. As Beth stated, I'm Olga Volokova. I'm the Data and Evaluation Manager at IYI, and I'm joined today by Bree Yoon, the Senior Data and Evaluation Manager. We hope that what you will learn here today, you are able to take back to your communities and use this data to impact the kids that you see every day. As a note, today we will look at statewide data, but the IYI data team has been traveling and will continue to travel throughout the state, sharing local county-specific youth well-being data. And if you're able to join us at one of those, please do so. Again, as you are here today, we invite you to add any questions you have to the question box. We will have time to address them at the end of today's webinar. And I'm going to start off the afternoon with an overview of the data from the data book across our 4 domains, and then we will dive right in. So as we start, and I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with IYI, but I wanted to provide some context of who we are and what we do. Our mission is to improve the lives of all children by strengthening and connecting the people, organizations, and communities that are focused on our youth. We do that through education and equipping youth workers through research and data, college and career readiness, and professional supports, and of course, by bringing audiences like this together. As we look through the state information, we know that there are 1.5 million children living here in Indiana. Our younger generations are more diverse than our adult population, and they're inheriting a world very different than the one we grew up in. Today, Indiana's youth will face challenges we couldn't have imagined as we were growing up. And it's our job as adults to prepare them for that future. That's the purpose of our IYI's State of the Child. That's why these conversations are so important. To prepare Indiana's young people for what comes next. And to do that, we need to know what they are going through today. And that's where better understanding of the data and using it for action comes in. For the past 31 years, IYI has released the Indiana Kids Count Data Book as a state affiliate of the Annie E. Casey Foundation's Kids Count Network, which is across 53. We are one of 53 across the country. The Kids Count Data Book serves as more than just a collection of statistics. It's a report card for us as adults. It challenges us to understand where we are making progress and where we must do better. But that means we also need your help to make sense of the information and to act on it. So without further ado, here is our report card for adults. As you look here in the slide, we can see that when it comes to issues affecting our youth this year, Indiana ranks 15th in the country for economic well-being, 17th for education, 31st for family and community, and 32nd for health. The economic ranking, just as a note, is an improvement, and this year we are 27th overall. There are certainly positive trends, like teen birth rates are down and child poverty is at its lowest in over a decade, and youth employment on the rise. However, we also see pressing concerns. Early childhood education enrollment remains low. Food insecurity is increasing, and the lingering effects of the pandemic are continuing to impact learning and mental health. So as we dive into the details, I'm going to go ahead and highlight where there is good news, areas of concern, and opportunities for the future. Again, please make sure if you have questions, go ahead and put them in the box, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. One of the first core domains by which we group our data is family and community. One of the indicators we track within this domain is access to exercise opportunities. And whether you're an educator, health professional, or community leader, your work directly impacts how young people engage in physical activity. As a note, according to the CDC, youth aged 6 to 17 should get at least 1 hour of physical activity each day. Access to safe and convenient exercise spaces like parks, trails, recreation centers, and gyms significantly impacts whether or not young people meet this guideline. The availability of these spaces can break down socioeconomic barriers, promote healthy lifestyles, and improve both physical and mental outcomes. In 2022 through 2023, which you see here on your screen, 23.2% of caregivers in Indiana reported that their youth aged 6 to 17 were engaged in 60 minutes of physical activity every day. This is higher than the national average of 19.5. Also, and this is the slide that the second statistic is referencing, there are still concerns about body weight and image, with 21.7% of caregivers in Indiana reporting that their child was either somewhat or very much concerned about their body weight in Indiana. This is lower than the national average of 24.3%. Furthermore, there are still areas of concern. 76.5% of Hoosiers had adequate access to locations for physical activity. This is a slight decrease from the previous year of 76.8%, and yet it is still 7.5 percentage points below the national average. 15.5% of Indiana children did not live in a neighborhood with amenities such as parks, sidewalks, recreation centers, or libraries. This is higher than the national average of 10.4% and severely limits the opportunities for free and accessible physical play for these youth. The number of students also attending physical education or PE classes all 5 days of the school week has declined from 24.8% in 2021 down to 22.4% in 2023. And while Indiana has made progress in keeping youth active, there's still work to do in order to ensure all kids have equal opportunities to exercise. The data tells us that while some students have access to great physical activity options, others are missing out due to geographic and economic barriers. The next section we'll talk about is youth in foster care. The foster care system is designed to provide stability and safety. However, we know that disruptions in a child's environment can lead to challenges, including risk of juvenile delinquency and mental health struggles. The good news is that stable placements and supportive services can lead to better outcomes in education and overall well-being. In 2024, 18,371 youth experienced foster care, marking a reversal in the decline we have seen in prior years. Furthermore, aging out remains a concern. Older teens without a permanent placement are at an increased risk for homelessness, unemployment, and lack of higher education opportunities. Another note is that 56.4% of children in 2024 who exited foster care were reunited with their families. And this is an increase from 53.6% in 2023. This means that more families are receiving the support needed to safely bring their children home. The time it takes for children to achieve permanency has decreased from 628 days in January 2023 to 579 days in January 2024. This is a step towards reducing uncertainty and giving children the stability that they need sooner. Furthermore, as you see here, there have been variations as we look at CHIN's cases, informal adjustments, and collaborative care, further showing the need for various regional and local assistance as we work through these particular cases. Every child deserves a safe, stable, and nurturing environment. While we celebrate progress, we must continue addressing challenges to ensure every foster child in Indiana has a strong support system.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Bree Yoon. I am affectionately referred to as the data nerd at IYI, and I am super excited to join Olga at today's presentation. So let's dive in. Let's dive into health. It's our second domain. And for those of you who are not familiar with how IYI is made up, we have 4 major domains, essentially like a category of how we group our data. Okay, so we care about success stories in Indiana. And one worth mentioning is the notable decline in substance use amongst our youth, currently sitting at a 30-year low. That is huge. In the past 2 years alone, we've seen alcohol use, highlighted here on the screen in gray, drop from 10.9% in 2022 to 9% in 2024. Binge drinking, which just to put everybody on the same level, is defined as consuming 5 or more drinks in a row, has also declined. Vaping here in purple decreased from 9.4% in 2022 to 6.6% in 2024. Marijuana use, shown here in red, has also declined slightly from 6.4% in 2022 to 5.2% in 2024. And finally, cigarette smoking is down, with 1.5 of students reported use compared to the 1.9 in 2024, and that's shown here in yellow. It's also worth noting that access to these substance uses like alcohol, cigarettes, and marijuana is becoming increasingly difficult for students. Now, while overall rates, we've seen them decrease, many students still perceive these substances as relatively harmless. This perception gap presents a challenge in preventing future substance misuse and addiction. Substance use at an early age can lead to serious long-term consequences, such as increased risk of addiction in adulthood, poor academic performance and higher dropout rates, increased likelihood of accidents, injuries, and legal issues, and long-term health impacts, including cognitive and neurological effects. Increasing protective factors like family engagement, school connectiveness, and positive peer influence can help reverse these trends. Equally important is addressing risk factors like substance use among peers and community norms that tolerate substance use. We are learning about the benefits of social connection in the lives of our youth, and that's certainly true when it comes to their mental health. Mental health is a critical aspect of a student's well-being, impacting their emotional, psychological, and social development. Starting with some encouraging trends from the most recent Indiana Youth Survey, rates of poor mental health are declining. In 2024, 29.9% of students reported feeling so sad or hopeless for 2 or more consecutive weeks that they stopped their usual activities, which again, just to clarify, is the clinical definition of depression. This was a decrease from 35.7 in 2022. Fewer students are considering suicide. 13.9% of students reported seriously considering attempting suicide in the past year, down from 17.2% in 2022. And fewer students are making suicide plans. 10.1% reported making a plan to attempt suicide, down from 12.8 in 2022. Now, I just want to stop there. And before I go any further, I want to recognize that these statistics are absolutely encouraging. We know that, but I think we can all collectively agree that 1 in every 10 student respondents is still one too many. I mean, I think we can all sit here and think about 10 kids in our life or that we deal with, we work with down our street, in our community, churches even. My family alone, there's more than 10 kids, so that's big. This further cements that despite these improvements, challenges remain. Gender disparities persist. Female students were twice as likely as their male peers to report experiencing poor mental health across all 3 areas of measure that I just mentioned. And this is consistent with previous years. 62% of LGBTQ youth in Indiana wanted mental health care, but they could not access the necessary services. And as you can see here on the screen, it's the highest rate against all the neighboring states. What was the most common reason cited for going necessary mental health care? Well, thank you for asking. It was the fear of simply discussing their mental health concerns. Access to care remains a barrier. 59% of caregivers reported difficulties obtaining necessary mental health care for their child, a rate that is both higher than the national average of 56.1%, and again, as you can see here on the screen, all neighboring states. Mental Health America ranked Indiana the 16th highest, again, I want to say 16th highest state for the rate of children under 18 at risk for depression. These challenges highlight the need for continued focus on mental health resources and reducing barriers to access because we know that poor mental health can have lasting effects on youth. Some of these lasting effects include difficulty developing coping and social skills, increase of substance use, poor decision-making and academic struggles, and increased isolation and further episodes of poor mental health. Because mental health intersects with other key indicators, collaboration between families, schools, even libraries, healthcare providers, policymakers, it's all vital. Early intervention and support can significantly improve outcomes for our youth.
Economic well-being is our third category of data we'll talk about today. And we're going to start with child poverty. We know that poverty has lasting effects on a child's future. Children who experience poverty are more likely to struggle academically, drop out of school, and face unemployment and financial insecurity as adults. They are also at a higher risk of becoming involved in the criminal justice system. And research shows that persistent poverty, particularly in early childhood, can alter brain development, affecting cognitive and emotional growth. The impact of poverty is even more pronounced for children of color who often face additional barriers that make it hard to break the cycle. In 2023, 15.7% of Hoosier children under 18, that's more than 249,000 children, lived in poverty. This is slightly lower than the national rate of 16.3. The most vulnerable group is children 5 and under, with a poverty rate of 18.4%. This is the highest among all age groups under 18. Young adults aged 18 to 24 are also significantly affected, with 20.6% living in poverty here in Indiana compared to the national rate of 18.9%. When we look at family structure, the disparities are clear as well. 39.7% of single mother households in Indiana lived in poverty. This is higher than the national average of 38.5%. And compared to single father families or single father households, which stood at 18.3%, and married couple families at just 6.4%. As we look at this, we must also talk about child food insecurity, because we know that it can have serious consequences on a child's health, development, and academic success. Studies show that children experiencing food insecurity are more likely to struggle in school, face chronic health issues, and deal with family stress due to financial strain. Additionally, many families facing food insecurity rely on low-cost, processed foods that lack the nutrients essential for child development. There have been some positive developments in addressing food insecurity here in Indiana. Federal and local programs continue to provide essential support, with about 70% of food insecure children eligible for federal nutrition assistance programs. Awareness and community-driven efforts to address food insecurity have increased, with more focus on providing fresh and nutritious options. Despite this progress, Indiana continues to face serious challenges in addressing food insecurity. Nearly 2 in 10 children in Indiana, that's about 18.2%, struggled with food insecurity in 2022. This is in comparison to the 12.9% in 2021. An estimated 30% of food insecure children were ineligible for food nutrition programs due to income limitations. This is consistent with national trends. And 31% of households reported that while they could afford food, they lacked access to nutritional options. This is higher than the national rate of 27.4%. Child food insecurity is a critical issue that affects education, health, and overall well-being. While Indiana has made strides in addressing the issue, we need to continue to ensure every child has access to nutritious meals. Next, we're going to talk about youth employment, and that is an important factor in shaping the future workforce and economic landscape of Indiana. I'm going to highlight the latest data on youth employment to shed light on how we're supporting young people in developing job skills, increasing opportunities, and preparing them for adulthood. Indiana is making strides in youth employment. 39.4% of Indiana teens aged 16 to 19 were employed in 2023. This surpassed the national rate of 33.3%. Among teens enrolled in school, 34.7% were employed. This is also higher than the national trend of 30%. And 10.4% of Indiana teens were neither in school nor employed, compared to the national rate of 11%. Despite positive trends, there are still significant challenges. 9.2% of unemployed teens in Indiana had not graduated from high school, exceeding the national average of 7.3%. And young people of color face disproportionately higher unemployment rates that have been further exacerbated by the pandemic and have not regained. These barriers emphasize the need for targeted efforts to provide access to jobs, skills training, and workforce development programs. Youth employment is more than just earning a paycheck. It provides critical job-related skills that help youth transition in the workforce. It also increases financial stability for both individuals and families. It provides social and professional connections that can enhance career growth, and it is a path to reducing long-standing racial and economic disparities. By investing in our employment opportunities for youth today, we're preparing our young people to be part of a stronger workforce and a more resilient economy for the future.
All right, moving into education, starting with our youngest learners, research indicates that high-quality early education programs provide significant benefits, such as a 40% lower likelihood of dropping out of school, long-term economic returns with every $1 invested in generating over $8 in economic activity, bridging equity gaps for children from low-income families, leading to improved life outcomes. Trends in Indiana's early education landscape include participation in the On My Way pre-K program grew by 27.3%, reaching 7,948 children in 2023. The Early Learning Access Index improved from 60.6 in 2021 to 63.8 in 2024, reflecting steady progress and expanding access. Despite progress, Indiana faces ongoing challenges in early childhood education. 60% of 3 to 4-year-olds were not enrolled in preschool in 2023, below the national average of 54%. According to Early Learning Indiana, no county reached an access index score of 80, indicating that no area meets the threshold for adequate early learning availability. Rural counties are experiencing provider shortages, making access difficult for many families. Programs offering non-traditional hours have actually decreased from 28% in 2021 to 26% in 2024, limiting options for families working outside the typical hours. Early childhood education is a key driver of lifelong success. Investing in young learners today will equip them in their educational journey and future pathways, and you'll see that with our assessments. iLearn serves, and I just want to pause there too. When I was in school, it was iStep. So there is no longer iStep. It's now iLearn for anybody that needs that clarification. iLearn serves as a critical measure of student achievement and growth, aligning with Indiana academic standards. iLearn, ELA, and math assessments offer a comprehensive understanding of student proficiency in essential academic areas. So while iRead3 focuses solely on reading ability, iLearn ELA evaluates a broader range of language skills, including composition, speech, spelling, and grammar. And similarly, iLearn Math assesses foundational and advanced mathematical skills crucial for academic success and future careers, particularly in STEM fields. These assessments help educators and policymakers identify trends and allocate resources effectively and implement strategies to improve student outcomes. So let's start with some wins. There was a reduction in the number of underperforming counties. The number of counties scoring below the state average in ELA decreased from 57 in 2023 to 55 in 2024, reflecting localized improvements in educational strategies. There were improvements among some subgroups in math, specifically. Black and special education students who historically had lower proficiency rates saw an increase in math scores compared to the previous year. Now moving on to the pain points, the persistently low proficiency rates. Despite some improvements, overall proficiency rates remain low, as you can see here on the screen. Only 41% of students passed ELA and 40.7% passed math in 2024. That's low. The disparities across student groups, English learners had the lowest ELA proficiency rate at 13.7, with a significant gap, a gap of 32.9 percentage points compared to the general education peers. And similarly, special education students were 3 times less likely to pass ELA than their peers. Building off of that, the racial and ethnic achievement gaps, Black, Hispanic, and Native American or other Pacific Islander students continue to have lower proficiency rates in both ELA and math compared to their peers, highlighting the need for targeted interventions. It's clear that some progress has been made, yet significant challenges remain, particularly for English learners, special education students, and economically disadvantaged populations. Addressing these disparities will require continued investment in education, targeted support for underperforming student groups, and innovative strategies to enhance overall academic performance. So while iLearn scores in grades 3 through 8 don't directly determine graduation, they are a key indicator of student proficiency, and they can influence future learning and success in high school. Speaking of future successes, let's look at our last set of data on Indiana's high school graduation rates, the dropout rates, and college enrollment. Starting with some encouraging progress, Indiana's high school graduation rate has actually risen to 90.2% in 2024, up from 89% in 2023, which, as you can see here on the screen, is absolutely worth celebrating. It's the highest graduation rate in the last decade, which means there are more students crossing the finish line and earning their diplomas on time. Additionally, fewer students are dropping out. The state's dropout rate decreased from 6.6% in 2023 to 5.8% in 2024, trending closer to pre-pandemic numbers. This decline means more students are staying in school and working towards a diploma, which can have long-term benefits for both them and their communities. Now, while graduation rate and dropout rates have improved, challenges still remain. 26 of Indiana's 92 counties still have graduation rates below the state average. That means that regional gaps persist and some students face greater barriers to access. Racial disparities are present. The dropout rate among Black students remains the highest at 8.5. And although I do want to point out this, while it's the highest, it decreased slightly from the previous year. Another concern is that while more students are graduating, fewer find meaning in their schoolwork. 33.8% of students in grades 7 through 12 reported they seldom or never felt their schoolwork was meaningful. And that, my friends, is a troubling statistic that highlights engagement issues. When it comes to college enrollment, the numbers have stagnated. Only 52.8% of Indiana's 2022 high school graduates enrolled in college. I should clarify this too, immediately enrolled in college. A small decrease from 52.9% the previous year. Additionally, students who graduate with a general diploma or Core 40 degree are far less likely to attend college compared to those who are earning an academic honors diploma. These statistics matter because they directly impact the future of Hoosier youth, including their place in the workforce, economic mobility, and community well-being. Lower college enrollment rates may indicate affordability issues, lack of readiness, or a shift in career aspirations. It's important to ensure that students understand all of their options, whether that's college, vocational training, or other post-secondary pathways. Now, as we dive deeper into the broader well-being of children, we appreciate you for taking the time to join us in exploring and better understanding the state of children in Indiana. I recognize that we just threw a lot. We threw a lot at you, and thank you for the question, Deborah. We will absolutely send this slide deck over to Beth. So I know we threw a lot at you and not a lot of time, but if you have any questions for us, please feel free to pop them in the Zoom chat, and we'll spend some time here in just a few minutes answering them. But before we do, I want to show you how to access this year's data book and county dashboard. And I think, Beth, I'm pretty sure you are amazing. You popped it into the chat, so you can always click that link. You can scan, if you have the room on your phone, feel free to scan this QR code. But as Olga mentioned earlier, this will allow you to dig into all the data that we talked about at a state level into your local county. Okay, so there are 2 ways to access our data book, or I guess 3 ways because Beth put that in there, thank you. My favorite way is if you do click that link that she shared instead of the QR code, all of the links are live. So if you want to dive further into the Indiana Youth Survey that we talked about, or Early Learning Indiana, they have beautiful resources. If you want to dive further into those resources, those links will take you directly to where we got everything from. So you can do even more digging on your end. Next slide for me. Beautiful. The second resource we wanted to share is our dashboard. To access our county dashboard, you will again need to head over to iui.org. Beth, if you could add that resource, that would be great. You can head over to our data page. Under the data click down button, you'll see county dashboard and it will show you here in just a second too, as an option. And similar to last year, I'm not sure how many of you have accessed our previous dashboard, but similar to last year, this year's dashboard is embedded directly into our site for you to interact with. But if you're like me and you don't have the greatest eyes, you can always open it in another browser or tab. All right, so let's navigate the dashboard together.
I'm going to go ahead and play the video.
Beautiful. Again, this is what our site looks like. I will give you a heads up that this is actually a recording from last year, so it will say 2024. Beautiful. And this is what it will look like if it's embedded, but I tend to open this up in a different tab. You don't have to. Okay, at the bottom where it's clicking right now, those are arrows. That's how you navigate between the slides and you toggle between them. Beautiful. This is the front shot. Is that paused?
Oh, I don't know why it didn't keep playing. I didn't pause it.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's okay. So on the dashboard, when you pull it up, you will see these like wiggling call out boxes, and they contain sources. So we want to be transparent about where we're getting all of our data from. So any source there is ready for you to kind of navigate or dive in further. It also has all of the years for the data, if it's not specifically called out within the chart itself, and any definitions tied to the data itself. So great question earlier. Someone asked what CHINS is. That will be defined actually in the call out box. It's also in our data book. Thank you for answering that too, Beth, by the way. On this dashboard for every, I think there's oh gosh, I think there's 15 total indicators this year. For all 15, all 92 counties will actually be shown, as well as the state. Two of them this year, though, it is new. Two of the indicators are actually regional based. That's because they come from Indiana Youth Survey, and that's how they disaggregate their data. So that is new for this year specifically. At the top of every page, it's okay, Olga. At the top of every page,
Sorry, it's just stuck. My
it's okay.
apologies.
No worries. At the top of every page on the dashboard, they'll have a drop down, and that's how you'll select which county, or if you just want state data too. All right, so I highly encourage you check that out. We also on our page do have one-off if you're interested in something specific like our substance use or mental health. We do have data briefs on very specific topics as well to help support that. And within that, we even have recommendations too, and we do them at a federal, a state, and a local level. So yeah, all right, we have a little bit. Wait, well, I think we have some time left. If there's any questions, let me pop over here.
Yeah,
Just check.
we absolutely have some time to do questions. Turn on my camera. There were a couple in the chat already. One was from Eileen. She wanted to know, is there data on the impact of quality after school care for kids, especially elementary?
Yes, there's a lot of data on that. That is a great question. There's a lot of data on that. I highly suggest we have a partner called Indiana After School Network. And I think they're partners with America After 3 p.m. They are a wealth of knowledge with after school and out of school time data. They collect their own data as well, and they collect their own research around that. They kind of do something similar to what we do when we do our State of the Child and go community to community and county to county and kind of aggregate, all of the information, what people are seeing and all of that. And they also even have one step further. They have partners for after school programs that they partner with because it's part of a program. So they have a ton of data, and they are a huge resource for all of that. We do partner with them. If you need a connection, please feel to reach out to me, and I can connect you with somebody if there's not. I think they have a connect with us button, but if they don't, I can put you in contact. They had a few people moving around lately. So, but yeah, so it's Indiana After School Network, IAN. They are incredible.
Great. And then Katie had asked, can you share or repeat the first few stats you shared on education, specifically about 3 to 4-year-olds not enrolled in preschool and areas not meeting the early learning standard?
Yeah. So, do you want to go back to those slides? I think I know what you're talking about. For the moderate access, so Early Learning Indiana set a threshold of 80. So if the state meets, or county, right, met the threshold of 80, and there's 4 different ways that they do that. It's cost, quality, availability, and choice that they measure that in. And if they meet the threshold of 80, that's considered that they have the right amount of access for childcare. Unfortunately, Indiana, in the last 4 years that they've been doing the report, has not hit that. So we are getting better. Each year we have progressed, and we've gotten closer. We're at 63%, I think it was. I think I said, let me go back, 63%. So that's huge. We've definitely made progress, but we're not quite there. And they break it down further. So again, they have a really good, it's called Closing the Gap report for Early Learning Indiana. It's Closing the Gap report. And they go in a little bit further as far as the access, and they even have like a heat map that will show you who's the closest. Yeah. And then the stats, what was the other part of that question? Like the, did I answer that?
I think so. Specifically about 3 to 4-year-olds not enrolled in preschool and areas not meeting the early learning standard was the question.
Yeah, so 60% are not enrolled, and how that's measured is by the census actually, and it is measured by private and public early learning programs. So they do measure both. Let me scroll, make sure I touched everything on that. Participation on My Way Pre-K grew, so that's huge for our state. It grew by 27.3%. That's big growth. There's, as far as like how it benefits a child going into an early learning program, 40% lower likelihood of dropping out of school. That is huge. That was actually a study done, I think On My Way Pre-K program did a third-party study on that, and that's what they found. That is a big number. Long-term economic returns with every $1 invested generating over $8 in economic activity. And then they did find that it bridged equity gaps for children from low-income families, leading to improved life outcomes. Yeah, but it was 63.8% in the Early Learning Access Index. And then that last one that Olga posted on here was the breakdown on how they got that. Yeah. The two biggest things that not two biggest things, but two big things that report found was that rural counties are experiencing shortages, and then also that after school program or after hour programs are decreasing. So for the families that aren't working those traditional, 9 to 5 hours, their options are quite frankly limited. So yeah, anything
Thank
else?
you. Yeah, any other questions that I don't think I missed any in the chat, but if I did, please add them below. Oh, here we've got another one from Seth. Graduation on time has improved over the last 4 years, but school children not proficient in math and ELA has increased. Is there data in relation to state school curriculum and proficiency? It seems easier to graduate on time, but I wonder if that is due to easier curriculum.
Yeah, that's a great question. That is a great question, Seth. There's a lot of speculations on why, because in theory, the data nerd, in theory, you would like to see the iLearn assessments or even SAT assessments, right? Match graduation a little bit closer because there's still a huge gap. And why is it that our assessment score is going down, but our graduation rate's going up? So great questions. There's a lot of ways that you could think about that. There's the graduation pathways, and I think that's changing even more in the future. So I can't for sure say, but there's many different ways on how students can graduate and graduate on time. Many different pathways that they can take, depending on if they're going to enroll in college on time, right away, or if military is an option. Those things. Great question. There is studies. I know they do. DOE does a huge summer presentation. Department of Education did this past summer. Did a presentation on how it connects and even how chronic absence and truancy connects as well with that, with assessment scores and graduation rates. We don't do that, but they do have it available. And if I can find it, I'll send a link over to Beth, Seth, on that. So that is a great question. You're spot on. There was also speculation on homeschooling, how homeschooling affected that as well, post-pandemic. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else with questions? We have plenty of time if you do. If I don't see any questions popping up here soon, though, we'll wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead, and for those who are attending live, I'm putting the LEU request form in the chat box. If you need an LEU certificate and you're watching this live today, you can go to that form. Please, here in the very near future, fill it out. I usually close it after about 24 hours so I can get those LEU certificates out to you in a timely manner. So make sure you go there and do that. And it looks like we've got a feedback link here, QR code, if anyone wants to fill that out, as well as the link or QR code for the data book, the Kids Count data book. Oh, we have another question. Is there data on the impact of non-teacher adult interactions with kids at any age? Ooh, it's a good question.
Yeah, great question. So the data, I think you mean research on that, right? So there is data on like touch points and okay, this is really confusing. And this is something that we struggle with at IOI too, is some places call that a mentor, some places just call that touch points, some places just call this like connections or community connections. National Survey of Children's Health is the best for data. Any KC is actually the best for research when it comes to connectivity between adult interactions, especially like outside of the school adult interactions. So if you go to any KC and even just type in adult interactions, you will get a lot of research. But if you're looking for very specific data points that you want to tie to the work that you're doing, I would suggest National Survey of Children's Health, and they even have like a data map that will pull that up for you. But yeah, there's lots of it, and Eileen, I will say that is actually something that probably will be expanding much more because as research shows, especially post-pandemic, unfortunately data is a little dated, right? So it takes a few years for us to catch up. But mentor, connectiveness, adult interactions, all of that kind of data and research, there's been a need for it. So it will be expanding even more so within the next couple of years. But those are two great sources. Again, National Survey of Children's Health for data, and then NEKC for resources, tips, research behind it.
That's really interesting. I talk sometimes in some of my trainings about teen development, how important it is for library staff to potentially be a trusted, caring adult for kids, you know, so they have someone else. I mean, it's great. Hopefully they have supportive parents, but even if they do have supportive parents, you can have such an impact on a kid's life by being that encouraging and safe person.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
And what research is also showing is that not all of those interactions need to be formal, and not all of them have to be repetitive. So they could be one-off. Traditionally speaking, that's why the definition of mentor has been so debated and even like changed. And that's why data is trying to catch up to that, is because, you know, what does a mentor look like? Well, it could be a one-off person. It could be a coach, and then maybe a seasonal coach. So you know, we're a partner with mentor initiative, and that's an ongoing thing, but there's so many, you know, so many different types of mentors or adult connectiveness to, you know, librarian even, right? So yeah, I'm excited about it. It's something I'm super passionate about too, Beth. And so yeah, and Olga, I don't know if I'm sorry, I'm kind of capitalizing on this. I get really excited.
You're okay.
So sorry.
You're okay. You're
I love
okay.
excitement.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. All right. I haven't seen any other questions come in. So I think I'm going to say thank you so much to both Bree and Olga for your time today. This is really valuable info. I will put all of the resources that, like, I'll put a link to the data book. I'll put your slides if I'm, you know, maybe in PDF form or something, all with the recording once it's available. And I will send out the recording to everyone who watched live today or who registered as well. So you can look for that. Within 30 days, usually much, much less than that, though. So thanks again. Thanks to everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, goodbye. I'm going to stop the recording.